Hi there, it's Nicole, and today I have a Distress Ink watercolored florals card featuring the Mama Elephant Brushed Florals stamp set. This is new for the June 2016 release. Gorgeous flower stamp set. You can create all kinds of beautiful flowers. I'm using one of my favorite techniques, and that is using distress inks to stamp these images. One thing about distress inks is that they're not really made to stamp solid images like this. They tend to not give a very perfect stamped result. So you can see there it's not very filled in. But the great thing about distress inks is that they react and work with water. So if you want some very easy watercolored looking designs, stamp the image with your distress inks. I did the rock and roll technique, so I could do a two-tone leaf here where I added the lighter twisted citron first and then the mowed lawn. Then dip a paintbrush in a little bit of water and go ahead and smooth out those inks with your paintbrush. It's going to give you a watercolored look, but very, very easy because you just follow the shape of the design. So I kind of refer to it as watercolor cheating. Very easy to achieve that look, especially if you're not really comfortable watercoloring. So you can see here I stamped the flower with picked raspberry and candied apple, and it was definitely not very perfect. And then I'm simply filling it in by using a paintbrush dipped in water. I'm going to keep doing this to build up my design, trying to figure out where I want to move next. I'm going to stamp a red floral, but I decided I needed to stamp another leaf first. A little bit of overlapping going on here. That also works really well with this particular technique. Again, you can see how it doesn't stamp very perfectly when you first stamp that image, but you put a little water to the distress ink and you are left with gorgeous florals. I'm going to clean my paintbrush and move on to the leaves and stem, smooth that all out. And I ended up using quite a few of the images from the brushed floral stamp set. I'm going to do a couple of red flowers here. And it gives a really good example of just the difference between when you first stamp it with the distress ink and then when you apply the water and smooth out those colors. If you wanted to skip this sort of technique altogether, you could achieve the same look by doing the rock and roll technique with pigment inks, or a similar look, I guess I should say. But the rock and roll technique will give you that two-tone look. And the Mama Elephant pigment inks work great for that. So just another way to stamp these images. Solid images are some of my favorite to use, not only with this technique with distress inks and water, but with pigment inks as well. And I'm simply just building up, continuing to build up this scene. I really want to kind of fill in this whole area with florals. And I built it as I went. The yellow flowers are a combination of squeezed lemonade and carved pumpkin. And I'm just pulling that orange up a little bit into the yellow area. I'm going to do a little trio of those here. Even though that one overlapped my pink flower a little bit, I'm going to clean my paintbrush and go back into that pink flower and just kind of smooth that color out. Cleaning my stamps on the stamp scrubber pad, and then I'm going to add in a couple of little images here and there. This little floral here just with some picked raspberry. I'm going to add another one down here. Then I'm using some little fillers, stamping that with shaded lilac. And then I'm going to place a little seedless preserves on an acrylic block, pick up the color with a damp paintbrush and add little dabs of that so that those flowers also have that two-tone look. You can definitely see I was building it as I went. I'm going to fill in the centers of those orangey yellow flowers with a little green. Add some additional leaves down here along the bottom. I even extended the stem just a tiny little bit there. Felt like I needed a little bit more greenery. I'm going to add another leaf up here. Again, I did the two-tone look with Twisted Citron and Mowed Lawn Distress ink. Smooth it out with some water. I am going to take a couple of the greetings. I'm going to use the words your and then the best and stamp those down along the bottom using a black dye ink. I'll start with the word your and then I'll finish with the best. I did stamp that off on some scrap paper first to make sure I got a really good stamped impression. Once I've added my greeting, I'm simply filling in the rest of the area. I am going to be framing up this piece, but I want it to be really full and filled with all of these really pretty florals. Added another pink one up there in the top right corner. Added a little more greenery. I did do a tiny bit of masking. It wasn't even special masking where I actually cut out the stamped image. I actually just used a little bit of Post-it tape to mask off the area. It's kind of cheater's type of masking, so that things didn't overlap too much in certain areas. Trying to figure out what I want to add here. I felt like it needed something. There's my little Post-it tape. You can see that I used it as a mask a little bit so it didn't overlap too much of those purple flowers. I'll fill in my 2 additional yellow and orange flowers, picking up a little orange there and pulling that color out to the yellow a tiny little bit. I am going to fill in some purple a few other places just to make it really nice and filled with lots of color. I felt like there were a few little gaps where it was maybe a little too white behind some of those first flowers that I stamped. Fill in with an additional little pink flower. Add some little greenery to the center of those. Then I'm going to take another piece of watercolor cardstock and use the Park Avenue die and die cut this to use as a frame. I didn't want to take away from the beautiful color of my panel, so it's just going to be a watercolor cardstock die cut frame around this, but it really finishes off the look of this floral design. And then I'm simply using my tape runner all the way around to apply some adhesive, and then I'm going to pop that right over. For some reason, I didn't get my adhesive applied very well, so I'm just making sure none of it is visible before I put it onto my panel. So some of that adhesive got over there along that scallop edge. I'm just going to make sure that nothing is going to show using my fingernail. I'm going to line that up, and you can just see what a beautiful finished edge that Park Avenue frame gives that floral panel. It just is a really simple finishing touch. Now it's beautiful as is, but I wanted to do something else. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this panel, which it is A2 size. That frame is an A2 sized frame, so it's going to cover the entire front of a standard card. I'm going to take a little white on white striped washi tape, and I'm going to place that around all of the edges. This is a thin washi tape from Doodlebug. I've had it forever. But it's going to give that frame just a little bit of definition. You could definitely use a colored washi tape if you wanted to. I didn't want to add any additional color. I wanted all the color to be with the flowers. But I think that a colorful frame would be pretty too. It's a little hard to see in the video. I'm going to lift it up there, but you can see it's got a great tone-on-tone design. I didn't even worry about making the corners really pretty. I just tore them. It ended up looking really nice. I love how that looks. I'm going to finish with a few pearl gemstones. These are from Hero Arts, and that is going to be my only dimensional embellishment. And that is going to finish off my card design here today. Thanks for watching this video showcasing the Mama Elephant Brushed Florals stamp set new for June 2016. The supplies I've used to create this card are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Here are a couple more cards featuring the June 2016 Mama Elephant release that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.